Why? Why not try to...
Okay, this fuck around and find out video that I came across on TikTok is absolutely crazy. It's a post from Hannah Silvera, and she tells the story of her and her immigrant husband, who she's been married to for over a year, going to one of his immigration hearings and getting detained by ICE. And I'm telling you, there were a lot of red flags in the original story, and then a lot of people went and found out things about her, and I am telling you, she is getting exactly what she voted for and exactly what she deserves.
Get ready with me while I explain how ICE took my husband and why we might lose everything because of it.
People really need to be aware of who they marry, because I'm telling you, her doing a get ready with me video to announce to the world that her husband has been detained and they might lose everything that they have is a fucking huge red flag to me. Are you serious? Was that a smile on her face? She's like, get ready with me while I let you guys know that my husband, he was detained. We might lose everything. And then she starts talking about how he's the sole provider and all of this type of stuff. But again, she decided to do this with a get ready with me video.
We were at our marriage-based green card interview, which is like the last step to becoming a lawful permanent resident. We were totally expecting to walk out with a green card that day when ICE barged in the middle of our interview, took my husband, handcuffed him, and took him away. No explanation, no valid basis. Seeing as we were about to move back to Minnesota, where I'm from, he was our sole source of income before he was arrested. And now I'm sitting here trying to think about how I'm going to pay for our rent and all of our bills while dealing with this disaster because they cannot tell us when he'll ever be released. I went from planning our future, starting to open up our own business, to now wondering where our next paycheck is going to come from, how I'm going to afford to live in such an expensive city. We live in San Diego, to try to fight this and get him out of custody because he doesn't deserve to be there. The thing no one's really talking about is the fact that overstaying a visa is not a crime. Right now, San Diego is taking people and putting them in deportation proceedings for overstaying their visa, whether that be a work visa or a student visa. My husband was here on student visa. And overstaying is not a crime. It is in civil court. It's a civil violation, very similar to a citizen not paying their car registration on time, not renewing our registration on time. It is not an arrestable offense for overstaying a visa. Other than that, my husband has done nothing to warrant being put in an ICE detention facility. He's currently being held at the Otay Mesa Detention Center on the border of the United States and Mexico. So now here I am. I figure, the worst thing that can come from this is that it helps me pass the time and reconnect with my community, since I've been inside pretty much alone for the last week, crying uncontrollably and trying to stay strong for him. But I mean, hopefully, I can figure out how to make do by supporting us in the meantime, because I have been applying for jobs. I have a law license. I'm an attorney, but right now we were transitioning to move. I wasn't planning on getting a job until we relocated, and now I'm trying to figure out ways to support us while he's there, just to keep our house and keep up with our bills. I figure if telling our story will also help educate the public, even if one person sees this, I don't really care, but to at least start spreading the news that it's not about doing things the right way. We were doing things the right way. We were at our green card interview. We were in the court system, but they started deportation proceedings anyway. We've been married for over a year, and we need to start getting this information out there, because people who are okay with these proceedings, I feel like they would feel differently if they really knew what was going on. I will eventually get on here and talk about the actual story about when they took him. It's really hard to tell. I've tried to make a video on it, and it's heartbreaking. So I haven't done that yet, but I will if this is what it takes to help pass the time and support our little family.
So she posted that video, and as you could hear, there were a lot of red flags. One of them was her saying, I guess one of the things that can come from this is that I can reconnect with my community. And people are like, your husband is in the ICE detention center, and you're talking about reconnecting with your community? And then you heard her saying things about how they were doing everything the right way. He wasn't a criminal. He wasn't committing any crimes. So the internet heard that. And they did what the internet does. And people started asking her, who did you vote for? We just want to make sure before we start feeling bad for you or feeling empathy for you and your husband, who did you vote for? She didn't really answer that question. She was kind of skirting around that question. So someone went through her repost. And listen, there's a lot of things that happens with people's reposts. My daughters had to hit me to the whole repost thing so I could know a little bit more about people. And someone went through her reposts. They went down to like October of 2024, November of 2024, and they found posts that she had reposted that were very critical of Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party. So they found out that there was a good chance that she voted for Donald Trump. So then she makes this other video where now all of a sudden she looks like she's been crying. She's not doing a get ready with me video again. She's got no makeup on or anything like that. She looks very raw and just hurt now, right? So she makes this video where she talks about the entire thing. And in that video, she says, I didn't vote for this. But she did not say again who she voted for. So people started dragging her. They were like, listen, we voted for your husband not to be detained. We wish you had done the same thing. So then she makes this other video. And here's the part that really gets me. Because you heard her say that she is an attorney. You heard her say she has a law license. If you go through some of her videos, you see some of her graduation pictures. So this is a college graduate who had to pass the bar, who has a law license, who is an attorney. She makes a video about how, she wasn't educated on politics very much. She grew up in a very red area where she didn't know a lot about anything, Democratic at all. All the things she learned was that Democrats were bad and Republicans were good.
I'm going to address this comment because I think it's a very good point. And I'm going to first offer some context and lay the foreground and then get into who I voted for, what my opinion was at the time, what it is now, and hopefully try to bridge the gap of what you have seen and where we are now.
So I grew up in an extremely red area. I'm talking all white people. I think there was one family of color in our entire town. I grew up in a town of like 3,000 people, predominantly farmers. It was hard as a child growing up with people who had such strong conservative opinion and being taught in such a way that this is fact and this is the right way to believe, etc. And trying to unlearn and relearn all of the things I was ever told growing up was extremely difficult. And like I said in another video, it was not linear and took an extremely long amount of time. Pretty much the campaign that Trump ran in this last election was everything I was told growing up. I will admit and fully take accountability that I took too long to explore different news sources than the ones I grew up listening to and, get in debates that were uncomfortable and sit there and have really difficult conversations and hear people out. And only then did I start shifting and really, it was a shock to my conscience that everything I was taught turned out to be a lie. It was something really hard to grapple with because I had to unlearn everything to relearn what I believe now. It was extremely difficult. Again, that's no excuse. I should have been doing that the whole time. I was absolutely an echo chamber of the things that I grew up hearing. So a lot of what I would say, even out loud, and I'll admit it now, so ignorant because we didn't have the full picture of what the world looked like. It took a lot for me to get to the other side, if you will, because I was taught everything as if it was fact and left no room for question. And only when I actually moved to California, a very blue state, and started having these conversations where people would bring up facts that I had never heard and opinions that I had never entertained and was never exposed to. Is that an excuse for the fact that I didn't do my own research prior to just regurgitating everything that I grew up believing? Absolutely not. Now, to address the most important issue that people are asking, I didn't previously speak on it because I wanted to come across in a way that shows that I have taken accountability and I have changed and I am ashamed of who I used to be and I'm taking accountability. That being said, growing up in a way where I was so committed to my own beliefs that I wasn't listening, only when I started to listen, when this last election cycle was coming up, and listening to multiple different people and trying to find the facts under it and everyone saying that all of it is fake news and everything is wrong, it was so confusing. I discovered shortly before the election cycle that everything I had ever learned was false or called into question and debatable when I never grew up thinking that they were debatable topics. It was a right way and a wrong way.
But when I started uncovering the fact that maybe I didn't know anything about anything and that I needed to educate myself, I did not, and this will be extremely controversial, I did not think that I was educated enough to cast a vote on anything. So, that being said, I did not vote.
Okay, my apologies that you had to listen to all that bullshit just for her to get to her final point, which I think is a lie, that she did not vote. You're telling me this woman went to college, graduated, went to law school, and in other videos she talks about how they debated politics in law school. Then she says, when I moved to California and moved into a blue state, then I started learning that all the things I had learned were wrong. And I just started learning all this stuff, and everything. And even then, she decided not to vote because she wasn't educated enough in November of 2024. We're talking 12 months ago or whatever, right? That's what we're talking. 12 months ago, she wasn't educated enough to cast a vote. Someone who went to college, went to law school, right? She wasn't educated enough to cast a vote. Bullshit. I'm calling bullshit on this story. I think she voted and she voted for Donald Trump. People went back and they looked at her stuff. She reposted some stuff about Charlie Kirk 3 months ago. So when she says I just didn't know, I didn't understand, you know who the dumbest person in this whole thing is? Her husband. Her husband. How much education does it take, first of all, for you to understand what mass deportations now mean? And if you don't understand what it means, if I'm married to an immigrant for an entire year and I see someone campaigning on, I'm going to deport Mexican people, and I'm married to a Mexican person, I'm going to find out what mass deportations now mean. I'm going to listen real closely to what people are saying on the other side about what this might mean, because people like me were saying, listen, I know they're saying they're going after the criminals first. I know they're saying they're not going to mess with people who are just here working hard and all that. I know they're saying that, but believe me, they're going after everyone. People like me said this way before November. Ignorance is not an excuse. The phone, the device that you are using to make this crappy ass video and tell these lies, that same device could have educated you in an hour on this shit. It doesn't take months for you to look at what Donald Trump did, what he said he was going to do, and what he's now doing for you to figure out this was going to happen to your husband. For her husband to be married to her for a year, I imagine this dude was one of those Hispanics for Trump. He had to be, because I don't see how you could be married to someone for a year and understand that you might be deported and not explain to them that they should not be voting against your best interests. I think it's BS. I'm not even sure if I think she actually gives a damn that the dude was detained and is going to be deported, because I don't see this dude coming back. He's been detained now for over 2 weeks. I see him probably getting deported. I think it is BS that she is now saying that she did not vote. I think it's BS. She voted for Donald Trump. These people are getting exactly what they voted for. I don't feel bad for her. I don't care about the tears. I don't care about the story. I don't care about the fact that there are people in his family who probably feel pretty bad about the whole thing. Someone should have taught him better. Someone should have taught him better. I cannot believe there are people, and she even says, there are other people like her husband who are in that detention center. She's now in communication with other wives like herself whose husbands are in detention centers as well. So there are multiple people like him who have wives who may have voted for Donald Trump or supported Donald Trump, or people like him who have supported Donald Trump who are now sitting in detention centers. We've done FAFO videos on at least 10 of these. There are so many of them. How many grown-ass adults did not do just the simplest of research to see that exactly what we said was going to happen is now happening? I don't care about them. I don't one bit. I cannot, my empathy goes toward the people who did not vote for this. That is where my care is. For her, I hope the worst. I hope he gets deported, and I hope she has to move with him wherever he is. That's what I hope happens. I don't care. We don't need people like them in this country. You voted against your own best interest. You voted to see exactly what's happening to your husband happen to other people. You watched those rallies. You watched those speeches. You were in the comments of people saying, get them all out of here and crazy shit like that. And you went out and you cast your vote for that dude anyway after being married to someone for a year. Don't try to sell me on you moved to California a year or so ago. That's when you started your transition. But a whole year later, you thought, I'm not even educated enough to cast a vote. Bullshit. You casted a vote and it was for Donald Trump. And now you feel stupid about it because you're getting exactly what you wanted other people to get. The only empathy you have right now is because it is affecting you. You would not care. Understand something. And this is what I tell people, because sometimes people ask me, man, you don't feel bad for them at all? No. Here is why. You have to understand. They wanted these things to happen to other people. If this did not affect her, she would still be riding with Donald Trump. That's why I don't care. And as soon, if that guy, if her husband were to be let out and he were to be given citizenship, they would still vote Republican. Understand that. They're not hurting because of all the things that are happening to everyone else. They're hurting because of what is happening to them. And for that reason, I don't give a damn about them. And neither should you. Period.
Don't want no enemies or ops. Envy in their heart, I tell them stop. Vacation on the yacht.